Since the beginning, its flag has waved. Since the beginning, its style has dominated. Since the beginning, no other country has had a more profound influence on the development of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. 13 fighters who call this country home have entered the UFC, taking their form of freestyle fighting from the beaches and streets to the canvas of the octagon. Tonight, the UFC's middleweight and lightweight titles are on the line as the Ultimate Fighting Championship presents Ultimate Brazil.
The streets of Sao Paulo have a buzz this evening because the Ultimate Fighting Championship has once again gone global. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Goldberg, joined tonight live here in Sao Paulo, Brazil, by my partner, Jeff Blatnick. And Jeff, we are excited to be here in Sao Paulo this evening, 10 months after a very successful UFC in Shin, Yokohama, Japan. And when you talk about the UFC and the introduction to Ultimate Fighting, you talk about our original champion, the Brazilian, Royce Gracie.
Well, he set the stage. He was the model. He was the prototype. If there was ever a single discipline that carried itself in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with the practitioner named Royce Gracie. He dominated big men, small men, it didn't matter. Strong men, strikers, it didn't matter. He set the standard for everyone to follow. Everyone has learned from him, and the skills that are needed to perform in the octagon have evolved from the standard that Royce Gracie set.
They talk about Pele, the great soccer player, but I'll tell you what, we've been in town now for about 3 days. You walk around the street, you see Gracie Jiu-Jitsu t-shirts, you see Vale Tudo t-shirts, you see Luta Livre t-shirts. These people, these fans here tonight, absolutely thrilled for our card of 6 great matches, 2 title fights on the bout tonight here at Ultimate Brazil.
Well, the mixed martial arts has been around Brazil for over 100 years now. It also has evolved, and the Brazilians have tremendous pride, tremendous emotion, and reason to do that. We're going to be bringing them 3 major fights tonight. The first up, the middleweight championship. Frank Shamrock, our champion, will go for his 3rd title defense against John Lober. The only blemish on Frank Shamrock's record is to John Lober. It happened early in Frank Shamrock's career. Certainly he's gotten better, but John Lober has been waiting patiently. He's finally healthy, and now he has a title shot. And tonight we will also crown our very first lightweight champion. Pat Miletich won the first lightweight tournament. Mikey Burnett of the Lions Den was in that tournament, defeated a very tough Brazilian in Tadeo, but broke his hand in the process, was unable to continue. These two tonight will meet for the lightweight championship. And then the battle for Brazil. The Brazilian phenom, Vitor Belfort. He went through Telegman, Ferrozo, and Tank Abbott quickly and decisively. And then he had a very tough match against Randy Couture, losing. Couture not only won that fight, but many people felt he stole the heart of Vitor Belfort. Belfort came back in Ultimate Japan and won really a lackluster victory over Joe Charles. This will be his defining moment in the UFC, and he is taking on a tough opponent in Vanderlei Silva. Silva defeated down here in Brazil Mike Van Arsdale, and in doing so, put himself right in the middle of the hunt for the middleweight coming out of Brazil. Belfort against Silva. It should be a great match, and certainly this very passionate crowd, this very educated crowd in the ground game is going to be going wild during that fight. Back to you, Mike.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, here at Geneseo Portuguesa. The ways to win, as always, in the Ultimate Fighting Championship by knockout, submission. That is when one of the fighters taps out. A doctor or referee can stop the bout. The corner can throw in the towel, or if we go the allotted time and an overtime period, 3 judges, 2 from the States, 1 from Brazil, will render their decision. As we move towards the new year here in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and we are once again global, there is an important announcement to make this evening as we bring in the 3rd man in our broadcast booth, Bas Rutten. Bas will fight in the heavyweight division in January. We do know this now for a fact. Randy Couture has elected not to defend his heavyweight title, boss. So tonight we have 4 heavyweight fighters: Pete Williams, Tsuyoshi Kohsaka, Tank Abbott, and Pedro Rizzo. And then you will meet some of those winners in January. You have to be excited with your chance, potentially in March, to become the new heavyweight champion. What is it about the Ultimate Fighting Championship which makes a fighter of your caliber want to own that heavyweight belt, more importantly than maybe the other championships you have won in your prior career?
It's the biggest tournament in the world, the most known tournament in the world. Best fighters all over the world, from all over the world. So this belt is the most important belt.
Boss, join us for a couple of fights. Boss Rutten, look forward to seeing him in January as he will make his UFC debut in January in the UFC. So, boss, we look at the octagon. Geneseo Portuguesa here is our venue. And the familiar music gets the crowd excited as we are set for our first match of the night. Ebenezer Fontes Braga, 29 years old, from Rio de Janeiro, fighting out of the city just 210 miles down the road. He speaks no English. He has never before entered the octagon. Braga told us yesterday, "My dream is the UFC." He would prefer to fight outside of his home country, where he told us it is a much better way of life. But he feels good at 189 pounds and is very excited about his opportunity here tonight in our middleweight fight, the first of the night. Ebenezer Fontes Braga, Luta Livre, Muay Thai, and Budokan. The disciplines for this gentleman, who is 16-3 in mixed martial arts competition. He is comfortable fighting larger opponents. He has fought Kevin Randleman, lost to him, a much larger wrestler. He's a training partner of Mark the Hammer Coleman. He also had a great matchup against Dan the Beast Severn.
Well, look for Braga to try to start striking. If he can't find the range outside, he said he wants to bring it in close. He mixes strikes and submissions well, and he's tough and crafty. He is someone that you're going to have to feel that has some experience against bigger opponents, has learned from those experiences. He brings them into the octagon.
For the second time entering the octagon in his young career, Jeremy Horn, who had a spectacular UFC debut in Mobile, Alabama on the 15th of May, going 16.5 minutes with our middleweight champion, Frank Shamrock, before he lost by knee bar at 1:30 of the overtime period. Important to note for Jeremy Horn, he has been fighting and working out a lot with Pat Miletich. His fight against Frank was a great confidence booster. He almost actually stunned himself going into overtime. He didn't expect to do so well against Frank Shamrock, finding himself in a position to work Shamrock throughout the regulation time period. He stayed on top, he beat on him a bit, but he did get submitted in the end, although it was a great experience. So there he is, 23-year-old Jeremy Horn, 6'1", 190 pounds, born in Omaha, fighting out of Omaha, Nebraska. And now, to get our evening officially started, we once again will throw it inside the octagon to the veteran voice of the UFC, his 8th Ultimate Fighting Championship, the voice of the octagon, Bruce Buffer.
Tonight, SCG International presents a spectacular telecast like none you have ever seen before. Tonight, 12 of the world's toughest and most skilled fighters will compete in 6 bouts, including 4 super fights, 1 lightweight championship, and 1 UFC middleweight championship. This all takes place in the world's ultimate testing ground, the octagon. Señoras y señores, and ladies and gentlemen watching around the world, it's time to begin the Ultimate Fighting Championship!
Jeremy Horn has been very relaxed the last couple of days. Ebenezer Fontes Braga, a fighter he is not familiar with. 10-pound difference in the weight. The reach is going to be about the same. Jeremy Horn, just 23 years old. He said, hey, I stunned myself with my performance back in May in Mobile against Frank Shamrock. Both have fought Dan Severn in the past. We are getting set for our first fight of the night. Here's Big John McCarthy. Both in the black trunks. And the aggressor early is Braga.
Watch, he looked like he was going to launch a knee there, didn't get it going.
Good work.
And despite what looks like a frail build, you know Horn is strong.
He said that to us yesterday, that you'd be amazed how little weight he is able to bench, Jeff, but he knows that leverage is important in the jiu-jitsu and ultimate fighting game.
Almost looked like Braga had a headbutt there. That was awful close. That's an illegal tactic. But when you look at Jeremy Horn, you have to say that he feels he's got 80% yet to improve, as though he's a diamond in the rough, not yet polished. And he says that the working with Pat Miletich since his last fight has improved him a good 50%.
Almost all the guys he fights, he says, are better boxers. All the guys he trains with are better wrestlers. And working with Miletich and his manager, Dave Jobin, has really helped to bring Jeremy Horn's maturity level to a new high.
Braga told me that he would start striking from the outside. If it wasn't effective, he would close in like he did here. And then if this isn't effective, he's going to try to get it on the ground. Horn said he wants to stay away from exchanges, get the takedown, and maintain top position, whether it's in a guard or in a mount. He'd rather be on top.
Braga working with Luis Alves in Muay Thai, box Thai they call that group, Vale Tudo, Luta Livre. So a very diverse set of disciplines and skills for Ebenezer Braga as they tangle a minute and a half in. Let me remind you the rules. No biting, no eye gouging, no fish hooking, no headbutting. Since UFC 15, no hair pulling, no groin strikes, no small joint manipulation, no pressure point strikes, no elbows to the back of the head or the neck, no kicking when a man is down. As always, the fighters meeting last night, Big John McCarthy making all those rules very clear to our competitors this evening. Also added, no holding onto the fence in this event.
And it's basically inadvertent grabbing. You're not allowed to hold on in any shape, way, or form.
We saw just a smidge of it there, and Big John said you got to let go, Jeff. Boss Rutan is still with us here. Both guys working in close quarters together now, Boss.
Yep, you can see it. One is going to try take the other one down. And who it's going to be, you know, Jeremy's, what you said, he's training with Pat Miletich, so his wrestling has probably improved a lot. But Ebenezer is not bad too, you know. And he's a good striker too, so Jeremy's going to have a tough one on this one.
Oh, there's a good knee strike by Ebenezer Braga.
Horn blocked it with his left leg. Good job by Horn.
Now, Horn and Shamrock spent most of their 15 minutes in each other's guard, Jeff, and so far this fight has been all on the feet, although it has been against the fencing. So knee strikes have been really the only attempts thus far.
It's because one or the other always drives his opponent into the fence. There's finally a shot. Braga getting the first takedown. Close guard by Horn.
Now Horn gets struck with a big right by Braga. And Braga wants to go back up, and Horn shoots quickly. Watch out for the neck.
Choke.
Watch out. Can he spin out of it? It's over. It's over. Ebenezer Fontes Braga at 328.
Okay? No. He's on the count. Okay, stay with it. Oh, busy. Okay, stay right there. Stay right there, okay? Got him up in this one.
Horn taps out at 328. And the crowd reacts.
Here you saw Jeremy Horn try to shoot a double leg, but he left his head wide open and coming up, and when he did, Braga seized that head in a guillotine choke, and he cranked it. He forced Horn into the fence, keeping Horn from being able to move to try to take the pressure off. Horn had no choice but to tap. And this is where it happened. When Braga backed away, Horn came in, and Braga hit the fence, keeping him from going down, sunk that guillotine choke. And here he just keeps it tight, gets a little adjustment, drives him into the fence so that Horn cannot relieve the pressure. There you see the tap.
So there is your winner.
It seemed as though Braga knew grappling as well as he toted his striking skills.
Boss Braga told us yesterday he wanted to fight outside of his country. And with this, his dream coming true tonight, a victory in the UFC, now he will have the chance to do that. Impressive victory for Fontes Braga. He wins our first middleweight fight of the evening. And Jeremy Horn, still remember, told us he has reached 20% of his capabilities. He has a fine career in front of himself. Coming up, the heavyweights, Pete Williams, who had the stunning knockout of Mark the Hammer Coleman in redemption in Mobile, takes on the ever so popular TK Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. It's the alliance against the Lion's Den, but we have learned in the last 24 hours that there is no blood. In fact, there's a lot of love and respect, as the alliance and Frank Shamrock have moved away from the actual Lion's Den in Livermore, California, but still the greetings have been those with great pride with these two fighters.
Well, when Ken Shamrock went to professional wrestling, it is then that Frank was left to run the Lion's Den, and that he felt hindered him in his development as a fighter, trying to run the program as well as train. Formed an alliance with then heavyweight champion Maurice Smith. And since then, those two have trained together with the help of Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. But there was no doubt about it when we were interviewing both Pete Williams and Mikey Burnett, Frank Shamrock knocked on the door and was welcomed in and hugged by both fighters. There is a tremendous love yet between all the members of the Lion's Den, and really Maurice Smith said he's an extension of the Lion's Den as well.
Now here comes the opponent of the Lion's Den fighter tonight. He made his UFC debut in New Orleans, Battle of the Bayou in UFC 16, impressively trading strikes with Chemo to win a unanimous decision in the heavyweight super fight. This is his third mixed martial arts experience, and he surprised us all with his great stand-up skills in the year 1997. Tsuyoshi Kohsaka, a fourth-degree black belt in traditional Kodokan Judo. 12 years of judo training, 28 years old, out of Shiga, Japan. He has now moved to Seattle, Washington to train full-time with our former heavyweight champion, Maurice Smith. Those two gentlemen met in rings competition, and Kohsaka beat Mo. Now they are part of the alliance.
And a big factor with Kohsaka teaming up with Maurice Smith was that Smith would be taking on Martin Coleman. And he wanted to learn a good guard because he felt he was going to be taken down by Coleman and needed to survive long enough to bring his striking skills to bear. It was Kohsaka who taught him the guard.
We had hoped we would see 3 Lion's Den fighters this evening. Unfortunately, Jerry Bolander not here in Brazil due to injury, and he will not be in Petey Williams' corner. Guy Metzger and Free will be. But we were told yesterday, Petey said it doesn't matter. We're all brothers in the Lion's Den. There you see the King of Pancrase in the white t-shirt, Guy Metzger. They all went down, the Lion's Den fighters, Mikey Burnett, Petey Williams, and Jerry tried to get through his injury to Dallas to work out at Guy's gym, and he is in the corner tonight. It was the greatest night of Petey Williams' fighting life. We take you back to the amazing overtime period against Mark the Hammer Coleman in redemption. Williams was way down on points. Bolander Burnett said, you've got to do something amazing in the extra session, and he did, defeating Mark the Hammer Coleman.
I knew I was going to win. Everybody who trained with me and knew how I fought knew I was going to win. But no one else knew who I was. So they were thinking Mark Coleman, the Hammer, against this young kid coming in there. no contest, but it wasn't a surprise to me.
That knockout came at 38 seconds of the overtime period in Mobile. So officially, both fighters are 1-0 in UFC competition. For the official introductions of our first heavyweight fight of the night inside the octagon to Bruce Buffer.
Heavyweight super fight beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a submission fighter with a UFC record of 1-0. He stands 6 feet 1 inch tall, weighs in at 224 pounds. Hailing from Shimbaiku, Japan, and now fighting out of Seattle, Washington, please welcome Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a submission fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 4-0. Standing 6 feet 3 inches tall, weighing in at 230 pounds. He's fighting out of Dallas, Texas, and tonight representing the Lion's Den, please welcome Pete El Duro Williams!
So Petey Williams will not have Jerry Bolander, the man he was on the high school wrestling team, in his corner tonight. He's 23 years old, 230 pounds. Kohsaka comes in better condition than he's ever been in his fighting career, using some high-tech sprint training and running at the Washington State Acceleration Institute with Maurice Smith. Our tale of the tape. We are set to get the heavyweight fight underway. Here's Big John McCarthy.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
We are underway. Heavyweight fight number 1 of 2 this evening on our card. Petey Williams in the red nose trunks, and Kohsaka.
Pete feels he has an advantage in striking. Kohsaka in grappling. They say it's close, but you can see there Pete has a little bit of a reach.
Oh, he went high with a kick, and Kohsaka tried to shoot for the legs, Jeff.
And Williams says he wants to keep it up on the feet. Kohsaka says he wants to take him down and apply grappling skills. We saw how good that Kohsaka punched at Chemo late in the fight, putting combinations together, certainly learning those skills from Maurice Smith. They reciprocated. Teach me the guard, I'll teach you how to strike. So the battle will be, Williams wants to keep it on the feet, Kohsaka bringing it down, and you can see how articulate Pete Williams is with his kicks.
It was the only high strike that we saw in Mobile, the one that landed and knocked out Mark Coleman, but he has tried to go high a couple of times. This time TK sneaks a jab into Petey Williams.
Yeah, Petey walked into it and just nodded at Kohsaka, you caught me. But even that kick by Williams there, Coleman bent down thinking a leg kick was coming, and Williams steered it up into his face.
Oh my goodness, Kohsaka brings him down.
Hip toss.
Half guard.
To Nippon in judo. He would have won on that judo throw. Fantastic.
Kodokan champion. Here you see it.
Mixed martial arts record of 26-2-3. A lot of fights in rings for Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. Even Frank Shamrock was commenting on the training and the conditioning being impeccable by Kohsaka. He's showing a little blood on the bridge of his nose, boss.
Yep. Pete just took him in the guard, as everybody can see. I'm watching this fight very closely, so you have to excuse me because one of these guys is going to be my next opponent.
It's a great point. Remember, we told you earlier, Randy Couture will not defend his title. He has elected not to defend the heavyweight championship.
And in doing
these guys
so, he
tonight
relinquishes that belt, Mike.
Yes, sir. And tonight we have 4 heavyweights, 2 whom will advance to face one Bas Rutten, Mark the Hammer Coleman. Maurice Smith potentially will be on the card in January. So we have a road to the heavyweight championship belt, which will culminate in March. One of these 2 fighters trying to work their way on that road here this evening.
Certainly, this is the road to the heavyweight championship is an elimination over 3 shows, this being the first of them. And the winner here could face Bas Rutten next time, but puts himself in the picture of that heavyweight championship. Mike, one thing, Kohsaka has a history of getting cut.
I see he's bleeding already.
That cut, however, will not affect his vision. It is in no way really a bad cut at all. It just looks more like a scrape. Not a lot of blood flow at all.
Yeah, still in a half guard, Jeff. Trying to work an arm. Kohsaka's really trying to work the arm of PD. Spins out of it nicely and gets back into the full guard.
It's called an entangled arm, what we call in wrestling key lock. But either way, it's a submission hold.
Both of these gentlemen have similar skills in submission techniques. So I don't think you would favor either as far as talking of their submission skills, both equally trained.
And Kohsaka not really throwing any strikes here. This is almost looks like a jiu-jitsu battle, using just motion to try to improve position grappling. As yet, Kohsaka has not thrown a strike here.
Petey Williams, 4-0 overall in mixed martial arts competition. 3 wins in rings in Hawaii, couple against Joe Charles and John Renfro. And then the victory against Mark the Hammer Coleman.
Oh, another entangled arm. And again, Williams able to move out of it. You see Kohsaka putting his chest up over the top of Williams' face. This immobilizes the head so he can isolate the arm. He's doing it again now. He's going to stretch the arm away from the body. And then as he pulls that arm away from the bodies, he will go ahead and try to entangle it, get the key lock. One thing to note here, Mike, in rings competition where Kohsaka came from, you're not allowed to strike on the ground. So this is a new skill he's had to learn.
He's still trying to position that left arm. Boz, is it different for you to be able to see 2 fighters in person, 10 feet away from them, than it is to maybe study a future opponent on videotape?
No, I think this is the best way for me. You see, I already see the movements, what I'm going to expect from both fighters. A lot of groundwork there is, yeah, and no striking on the ground. So, Pete Williams, I have to watch out for the striking out, spanning out.
And a reversal by Williams. Kohsaka went way over the top looking for a guillotine choke. Williams reversed it.
Pete Williams can stand up now if he wants, but not anymore. He's got this footing.
This match, a time period of 12 minutes with a 3-minute overtime. All our fights tonight, other than the 2 title fights, the middleweight bout and the lightweight bout, 12 minutes with a 3-minute overtime. If we need to render a decision, our judges, Gene Fabricant, Jeff Mullen, and our Brazilian judge, Sayo Paheya, keeping tallies from their tables, octagon side here this evening in Gineceo, Portuguesa. Onto the feet they go. We're almost at the midway point of regulation time.
One correction, I said you can't strike on the ground. I meant you can't punch strike on the ground. You're allowed to knee and kick.
And that is a consistent rule here in the UFC.
6 minutes into the fight.
Petey again trying with the high kicks.
Very comfortable being on his feet.
A lot of the striking skills that have been developed in the past 12 to 18 months by Kohsaka as he brings Petey down have come from his training with Maurice Smith.
That's the danger of kicking. Your foot can get caught, and when you try to retrieve it quickly, you're knocked off balance. Kohsaka timed it nicely, maybe even baited him to throw that kick, and then was able to catch the leg when it came off him and knock Williams down. This is where Kohsaka wants to be. He's been very active here. He's continued to go for submission locks, mainly this one, the entangled arm. Once again, he's going to try to stretch it away, isolate that arm, get it away from the body, and then attack the elbow. And look at that, it's hyperextended, but Williams in no problem whatsoever yet. Not tapping. Looks very comfortable fighting off his back.
Well, it is often said that some of these fighters, most of these fighters from the Lions Den, will never endure more punishment in a bout right here than they have already in practice, be it Ken Shamrock in the past, Frank Shamrock, Guy Metzger, or whomever they train with. They train 150% of the time at 150% of efficiency and danger.
And again, Kohsaka isolates the arm, but he can't get the right leverage to get Williams to submit. Kohsaka definitely showing his skill here as a submission artist, but he has never had the likes of Pete Williams.
They're back up on their feet, and both seem to be with good wind, 7 minutes and 45 seconds in.
One thing everyone says about TK, that is Kohsaka, his conditioning is unbelievable. So Williams now has to determine whether or not he is starting to get tired. Kohsaka looks like he still wants to move forward.
The difference in this fight for Pete Williams against Kohsaka is that Mark Coleman arguably is one-dimensional. No stand-up skills, really no submission, a ground and pound, a great former champion. But Kohsaka has a wide array of skills, boss. We've seen them displayed in the first 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, they're starting to sweat now, you see, so no takedowns anymore. It's going to be more difficult. And as you also can see, they're not wearing shoes. That is because they're both submission artists and they know a lot of leg locks. And wearing no shoes is better, trust me.
And here in the country of Brazil, no kicks with shoes. So the fighters, some adjusted, some didn't, but we won't see many shoes tonight. If you're wearing shoes, you can't kick. Williams now in the full mount.
Full mount.
Trying to work the face of Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. 3 minutes remains in regulation time.
Let's see if Pete Williams now can strike. And oh! Kohsaka bringing his legs up, nearly reversed Pete Williams. You can see how articulate these athletes are at ground skill. You can see how much ground skill is needed when two people engage in a fight.
Pete can go for a knee bar right now, which he's not doing.
He did have that position there for a second. He could have reached down for that ankle.
And that's it. He would have finished him maybe.
These two guys know each other pretty well. The Alliance, the Lions Den, we talked about that, Jeff, but they have trained together in the past too. TK was training for a fight in Japan, and his training partner was Petey Williams. He reverses Petey there.
And boss, let me ask you, when you go ahead and attack someone's leg, you also almost expose your own legs in the process, and perhaps Pete felt that Kohsaka was better at leg submissions than he is.
Yeah, that could have been a factor, of course, but I would have tried the chance, you know, make it more exciting and go for it. What I see, I'm going to grab. And then later on, I'm going to worry about my own defense.
Kohsaka knew that Petey Williams has a very strong heart and good submission technique, so no surprise there. Mutual respect from these two fighters. Pete, the better striker, and Kohsaka, the better of the two on the ground. The famous TK guard, as named by Maurice Smith. Maurice very quiet, unanimated in the corner.
Close guard by Williams. Again, Kohsaka's not striking here, and I'm not sure if it's because he's afraid of missing the head and leaving his arm exposed.
10:45, a minute and 15 seconds remaining in regulation here in our first of two heavyweight fights. Our other heavyweight fight later on tonight, Tank Abbott and Pedro Rizzo.
People are booing, they want to see punches. This is Brazil. So that's the reason, because the game they're playing is unbelievable good.
They want to see punches, but yet in Brazil, they're so used to jiu-jitsu. Why the need for them to see strikes, Boz?
I don't know. That's why I think these people who are sitting here, a lot of luta livre people, you know, with striking and vale tudo fans, and not so much jiu-jitsu.
Attempted armbar by Williams. Kohsaka passes the guard now. Side mount.
More striking with the luta livre, as Boz and Jeff both know, and minus the gi there, so some of the tugging and hoist Gracie motions taken out. But still the jiu-jitsu background, I think, exists in a lot of these fighters. They're back up on their feet with only 18 seconds left in the regulation time period. Pete Williams, Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. We had a feeling it may go the distance, and it appears it is going to at least go into a 3-minute overtime period.
Well, a lot of this fight has been on the ground, Mike and Boss, and I would have to say that Kohsaka has had a lot of good attempts at submission here.
Yeah, but they both moved. Once Pete was on top, the other time Kohsaka was on top. I think it was a real good game. The ground game was excellent.
The striking, you might give a slight edge to Pete Williams. He's been able to land a couple punches, very active with his kicks.
And with his punches too. He did a good job. He will try to stay standing up now, I think. And it's going to be really difficult for Kohsaka to take him down. As you see, you know, they're sweating. And it has to be a leg takedown. It cannot be a body takedown, I think.
There you see Guy Mesger, the king of pancrase.
That's a position you know, Boss. I talked with you and Guy a long time ago in Japan at about 2 a.m. in the morning in the foyer of the hotel we were staying at. And I believe at that time you were king of Pancrase.
Yes, I was.
Some action here. Williams on the bottom, able to come out, come up. Kohsaka active on that ground game, looking for submissions, unable to get any, and we're in overtime.
Here we go, 3-minute overtime. The fighters show respect, and here they go. Kohsaka tried to strike on the left knee.
I look for Petey to be punching here. I think Pete's going to try to take the striking game full blast here and go after Kohsaka and not try to let it go to the ground.
Remember how Petey came out so aggressively in overtime against Mark Coleman and surprised and shocked the Ultimate Fighting world.
In the beginning of the fight, you saw him starting with kicking. I think he's setting him up right now with a lot of punching, and then works his way up.
Nice right hand.
There he goes.
Remember the 3 criteria for a judge's decision: aggressiveness, striking, and grappling. Big John McCarthy, our referee, his 21st Ultimate Fighting Championship. A constant since UFC 3 in Charlotte, North Carolina in September of 1994. 1/3 of the way into the overtime period.
Good punch from Kohsaka there.
Uh-oh.
And a takedown.
Petey got the leg stuck again. TK's conditioning, impeccable as Frank Shamrock told us yesterday, and it is showing.
As is Kohsaka, and we finally see Kohsaka moving his hands, striking, but really rabbit punches, nothing really on them, hitting the ribs and the stomach of Pete Williams.
Halfway through the overtime, Petey is known as a patient, technical fighter. We have seen that displayed here tonight. Don't panic in the guard, and Petey does not do that.
And he's going for the same armbar again.
Does it pay, in your opinion, Boz, as TK tries to get some more of those rabbit punches in to try to work towards the same submission 4 or 5 times in the same fight?
Yeah, I think he really trained at this. You know what it is? He's got a lot of power, and he can force himself to it. So when he's trained for it a long time, like 1 month in advance, it's really difficult to stop it, even when you know what he's going to do.
Jeff, TK trying to be aggressive and gain judges' points here in overtime.
He is certainly going all out there with striking, something he doesn't do. And again, an entangled arm briefly, but unable to get it. Kohsaka articulate with that move, and I'll tell you what, Pete Williams' arm was trapped 2 or 3 times, and his elbow definitely went 15 degrees beyond hyperextension, but Williams' joints bend that way. He appeared in no pain. He worked very well off the bottom, getting out of it.
Standing up again.
Standing up with just 10 seconds left in overtime. One last flurry. Petey tries to connect, and TK tries to answer. 5 seconds now. Oh, Petey went high with the kick. And they go the distance. 15 minutes in a heavyweight matchup between Pete Williams and Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. The Alliance and the Lion's Den competing for the first time 6,000 miles away from the coast of Miami, Florida, here in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the 3rd largest city in the world. In the overtime period, TK had the top. During regulation, it was the TK guard. The half guard displayed here, and Petey tried to strike from a half-mounted position. It is going to be a tough judge's decision. Once again, our 3 judges, the veterans, Gene Fabricant, Jeff Mullen, and the Brazilian judge tonight, Sayo Paiheia. Petey Williams, the better striker, and TK with the heart of a lion, the submission fighter from Shiga, Japan. We are awaiting the official announcement for the winner of our heavyweight fight tonight. For the official announcement, here's Bruce Buffer.
It's a unanimous decision for the winner, Tsuyoshi Kohsaka.
So Kohsaka gets decision from the judges. And Jeff, potentially, it was the flurry in overtime that rendered the judges' decision decisive for Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. So the Alliance, one love over the Lion's Den. And the victory to Kohsaka, the 28-year-old from Shiga, Japan. The show of sportsmanship inside the octagon. A look a moment ago, and Petey definitely tried to go with the high kicks at various moments in the fight. And TK and Petey, good friends, strong competitors, and a strong performance. So Kohsaka wins the unanimous decision against Petey Williams. Mikey Burnett, Pat Miletich, our first ever lightweight championship here in the most intense bare-knuckle combat on the planet. The ultimate proving ground for the ultimate in combat, 100% adrenaline, 1,000% pure guts. 170 pounds, they have to be less than. Pat Miletich, the reigning lightweight tournament champion who debuted impressively with those victories, as you saw a moment ago, against Saunders and Brennan in New Orleans. A 2-0 record in the UFC, a veteran of 25 mixed martial arts fights.
Miletich, the first lightweight tournament winner, has fought the likes of Dan the Beast Severn to a draw. Mikey Burnett certainly coming out of the Lions Den. They train with everyone. You don't get a lightweight to train with. You train with Ken Shamrock, Frank Shamrock, Pete Williams. So both are used to going up against bigger opponents. This is really going to come down to striking skill and speed.
Here's Miletich on his strategy tonight.
I'm just going to try and push the pace as much as possible and see how his endurance is. It seems that he got a little tired against Eugenio Tadeu. Tadeu's a very tough fighter, a very aggressive guy, but he's only 160 pounds, and it seemed that Burnett got pretty exhausted during the fight, so I'm going to see if I can tire him out like that and then finish him off.
He's been wrestling since second grade. He likes the rear naked choke. He has used that excessively in victories throughout his career. He says, I know I'm the better conditioned fighter. Mikey Burnett, though, may be the more aggressive fighter. He has a Tank Abbott-like style of aggressiveness. This young man, 25 years old, 5'6", 169 pounds, has incredible strength. In 1994, he was ranked the #1 power lifter in his weight class. A 600-pound squat, 600-pound deadlift, 400-pound bench press. Since then, his training has been consistent.
I'm gonna go out and do what I do, and I'm gonna attack. You know, that's my game plan. I'm a finishing fighter. I'm not gonna go out and do anything different for anybody. You know, I'm gonna go out like the same game plan every time, and that's just to take them out. I don't want to go to the time limit. If it goes to the time limit, fine. But I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna put the pressure on. I'm gonna stay on them.
Mikey Burnett possesses tremendous athleticism. With all of that power, he's got good hands, hits really, really hard, and he's got a tremendous stable, the Lions Den, to learn from. Pat Miletich, he's a hard worker. He's had to bear down to gain everything that he has, and he wears with pride what looks like the Iowa insignia on his trunks. That is what the Iowa Hawkeyes, the wrestling team, wears.
For the official introductions, the veteran voice of the Octagon, the lightweight belt is on the line. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next bout is for the UFC Lightweight Championship of the World. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left, a freestyle jiu-jitsu expert with a mixed martial arts record of 22-1-2. He stands 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighs in at 169 pounds. He comes to us all the way from Davenport, Iowa. Please welcome the Croatian sensation, Pat Miletich. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a submission fighter with a UFC record of 1-0. He stands 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing in at 169 pounds. He represents the Lion's Den and is fighting out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He is known as the East Side Assassin. Please welcome Mikey Burnett. And our third man in the ring for this championship.
We had hoped to see this matchup in the finals of the lightweight tournament in UFC 16 in New Orleans, but Burnett hurt his hand. He's 5 years younger than Miletich and a bit shorter. The weight is the same. Mikey Burnett packs a lot of power in that 169-pound frame. Miletich, much more experienced, more knowledge on the ground. Burnett, if you give an edge to striking, I believe you would give it to Mikey Burnett.
I certainly would, but look at both of these athletes. Look at the kind of physical condition that they're in. There is not an ounce of fat.
Let's get it on.
We're underway here for the lightweight championship of the world. In the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts, this is the one, the only Ultimate Fighting Championship. Miletich has self-admitted at times he's a slow starter. He likes to feel his opponents out.
That's another way of saying he finishes strong, which is meaning he's got great condition. Burnett now with a guillotine choke, and it's not sunk fully. It's over the top of the arm, but the head isn't turned to the elbow. Burnett standing straight up. Miletich a hold of his trunks, trying to keep him close so he can lift him. And again, the hard arch on that choke. Lost it there again.
Miletich trying to use the shorts, the white shorts of Mikey Burnett, to gain some leverage and work his neck out of danger.
That's how he's keeping that choke from really sinking deep.
Now he attempts a knee strike. In close range, Burnett, remember, he can throw some jackhammers. A readjustment of the equipment to Mikey Burnett's shorts, and the crowd reacts. Very vocal crowd here tonight in Gineceo Portuguesa, just outside of downtown Sao Paulo, Brazil. Mike Goldberg, Jeff Blatnick, happy to be with you here tonight as we have gone global again, 10 months after a great success in Shin, Yokohama, Japan. Now the shorts being utilized by the other man.
Now, they're both testing the elasticity of that material.
10 months ago, Jeff, we broke all-time ratings records on Nippon TV, Japan's largest network. 40% of the nation witnessed Ultimate Japan. Tonight, we have a live simulcast with our friends at Sport TV here in Brazil, who have also broadcast the last couple of events stateside. And we are happy and pleased and honored to be partnered tonight with Sergio Bottarelli and our friends at Sport TV.
Greco-Roman wrestling right there. Miletich got double underhooked by Burnett, and Burnett able to get to the body, lift, and drive him down to the ground. But this is where Miletich is a survivor. Severn couldn't do anything to him here, but Mikey Burnett's a different element than Severn. Severn's never been known for his striking. Burnett's got heavy hands.
Now, Miletich is a big mixed martial arts fan. He's been active in many debates with local politicians, talking about the true sport in which is displayed inside the octagon. He also was quick to compliment Mikey Burnett, saying his fight against Eugenio Taddeo probably single-handedly created interest in this new weight division. He knows of Burnett's explosiveness. He knows, Pat Miletich does, that he's the more methodical fighter.
Without a doubt, I think Miletich is much more methodical, more blue collar. Mikey Burnett possesses that athleticism that at any time can end the fight. Miletich has to wear on you and then slowly overcome you. He is capable, however, of landing a blow. I would also like to point out, too, Miletich, when he won that lightweight tournament, actually, after it was over, waiting for transportation, was talking to his opponent, giving him advice on what he needed to work on and how to go about doing it. There's tremendous honor between these fighters. They share knowledge, and that is why you've seen alliances and Lion's Den and a lot of cross-training, people traveling to get and learn the skills that they need to use in the octagon.
Jeremy Horn is going to relocate to Davenport, Iowa to train full-time with Pat Miletich, another example of what you're talking about, Jeff. He has only lost Pat Miletich one time in a mixed martial arts competition, a controversial doctor stoppage against Matt Hume in an extreme fight years ago.
And Miletich has a great guard here. Burnett really unable to solve its defense, not being able to land any blows. Miletich being active, punching when he can. But Burnett unable to get any kind of submission going, and certainly not getting any kind of striking going. And see, he wants to bring it up. He knows he can't solve that riddle.
4.5 minutes in. This is a belt fight. It is for the lightweight championship of the world. So the time period is 15 minutes of regulation and then 2 3-minute overtime periods if needed.
A little more pressure, Mikey. 5 minutes, Mikey.
Mark Hansen in Miletich's corner. Guy Mesger in the corner of Mikey Burnett.
Once again, Miletich backing Burnett in, and Miletich is a weight cutter. He actually dropped some weight to get to this weight class, so he does look a little bit larger than Mikey Burnett. And I feel he thinks that's an advantage from his wrestling days, where he's a little bit larger, and if he's acclimated to the weight, he certainly is going to be able to wear you down over the course of the fight, the little larger body adding to that effort.
Mikey Burnett, in our pre-fight interviews, said it is going to be a hell of a match. And so far, 2 equally skilled fighters have worked it both methodically and tried to get their spots to strike. Burnett doesn't want it to go the distance. He told us yesterday, Jeff, he doesn't want to leave his fate for the lightweight outcome in the hands of 3 other people. He wants to take it within his own hands.
Well, certainly every fighter wants to keep it in his own hands. That's what he meant by that statement. He didn't mean that he doesn't think he can go the distance. He just doesn't want the referees to decide the fate of his skill and his competition. I think that's the way with any competitor. But thus far on the feet, Miletich's reach has kept Burnett from really being able to get inside and punch.
Now, with that thought in mind, and a point well taken, Jeff, also Pat Miletich was quick to point out yesterday that he is going to attempt to run Mikey Burnett out of gas.
That certainly is a good ploy if you feel you have cardio. It's hard to believe anybody from the Lions Den, however, doesn't have cardio, but advantages can be very subtle, and it only takes a momentary lapse due to fatigue to create an opening that can give you the advantage. And Miletich is very smart that if he feels he has that, and certainly the confidence to do that, then that is what he's going to go ahead and employ, and that fits right into his slow start, strong finish.
All right, they were on their feet. They couldn't strike effectively, keeping close quarters for both. And John McCarthy, 7 minutes into the 15-minute regulation period, brings them to their respective corners. Mikey Burnett, 25 years old, born in Tulsa. Pat Miletich with the Iowa shorts on from Davenport, Iowa, a former All-State product from Bettendorf in both football and wrestling. Growing up 40 miles from the University of Iowa, Dan Gable in the great history of fine wrestling from the University of Iowa, one of his many heroes, Pat Miletich. He shoots.
Burnett waiting for it. Again, the shorts come into play. That's Miletich's weapon thus far from being knocked down to the ground, is able to hang on to the shorts. It's interesting that Miletich also said he doesn't think it's going to go the distance, and he meant that in terms of someone's going to win before it goes that far.
Now, the real key was to stay aggressive. Both fighters said that. But if you were to rank who is the most aggressive in their mixed martial arts career, more defensive at times is Miletich, more aggressive at times is Burnett. Most times, in fact.
It seems that way thus far, but right now it just seems that Miletich is content moving forward. I think thus far in this fight, Mike, he has moved forward. He's constantly pushing Burnett into the fence, looking to try to take him down. I don't think Mikey has really gotten on track yet with any of his real offense. Miletich has been able to get the opportunity to, well, excuse me, Burnett does have 1 takedown. That has thus been his big offensive thing. But Miletich again, oh, a nice duck under there, almost caught Burnett. but it's just this way that Miletich seems to just stifle your offense. He takes you really out of your game plan. Nothing comes clean. So everything looks kind of sloppy, kind of slow. But that's the kind of fighter Miletich is. He really keeps you from really winding up your offense and getting it going.
He has been in this game a long time, 30 years old, as I mentioned. A mixed martial arts record of 22-1-2. Under a minute now to go to 10, so under 6 minutes remaining in the regulation time period. Down goes Burnett.
And Burnett nearly had submission lock on the arm there. Second takedown now, and that was a pretty good attempt at a submission lock. That's the closest thing thus far in the fight to a submission. But Miletich's guard is tough. He's very, very long. He's got that ability to keep you away from his head, thus you really can't strike effectively.
Now Miletich in our lightweight tournament in New Orleans with the distance won a split decision over Townsend Saunders, then choked out Chris Brennan. In that same night at 9:46, the referee John McCarthy stopped the fight against Eugenio Taddeo.
Miletich throwing strikes from the guard.
I mean, you start looking at Miletich's background: kickboxing, Muay Thai, karate, martial arts, wrestled since he was in 2nd grade.
Tremendous cross training. That's
Absolutely.
only going to help him in the octagon.
He and the guys in his camp have a tremendous belief in training with guys better than you. And you'd say, well, who's better than Pat Miletich? He's the lightweight tournament champion. But there's better boxers, there's better Muay Thais, there's better kickboxers, there's better jiu-jitsu guys, and he tries to bring them into Iowa and train with them to better his and his training partner's skills.
And the analogy is this: you keep your pride for your fights, you put your pride aside for practice. The only way you ever get better is to have your ego assaulted in practice so that you learn, so that you improve. If you sit there and only work with people that you can beat, you've already reached the limits of your skills.
And if that isn't the exact story of Mikey Burnett's entrance into the Lions Den, I don't know what is. Mikey saying he's trying out for the Lions Den was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life and probably will do. It showed Mikey Burnett how little he really knew, and he said, as you just did, his ego got torn down. He's the last guy to be entered into the Lions Den. That happened 2 years ago.
And what you're seeing right here is Miletich's guard is keeping Burnett from really getting an opportunity to strike down. He just doesn't have the length to do it.
Turn around, face me. Turn around and face me. Get the water out of here.
15 minutes, remember, so 3.5 minutes of regulation time, and McCarthy restarts the fighters.
Neither one of these guys has slowed down. Neither one shows any real wear. Yes, they're breathing hard, but they're in phenomenal shape, and fatigue yet has not affected either fighter.
Mikey would like to stay on his feet, Jeff, and strike a bit.
He wants to find the range, but thus far that reach of Miletich has kept him. Every time he gets close enough, Miletich bull rushes him, grabs the shorts, and takes away that spacing. Problem with the glove. Big man John McCarthy all over it, fixes it up, and now they'll be ready to start. Safety of the fighters, the #1 priority of John McCarthy, and he has done a terrific job.
He's hurt, Mikey.
You hear the corner, Guy Metzger saying to Mikey Burnett, he's hurt. He's hurt. Do they know something
Well, that
that
one
Mark
knee might have
Hansen would
caught him.
disagree with?
That knee might have caught him, but again, you see that anytime Mikey Burnett finds the distance he wants, Miletich bull rushes and takes it away. And in effect, that is a very smart tactic. Why do you want the other person to have the advantage in the spacing that he wants? What you want to do is create the environment you want. Make him fight your fight. And again, he's got that semi-guillotine choke. It's more of a front headlock than anything, not just a lock directly on the neck. It's got that arm entrapped with it, which keeps it from really sinking in deep.
Miletich trying to strike with the knees in close quarters. Burnett keeping his opponent close to avoid that very thing from happening. Under 2 minutes remaining in regulation time now. The lightweight belt is on the line. It will be the first ever lightweight championship given away tonight here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The middleweights debuted in Ultimate Japan when Frank Shamrock defeated Kevin Jackson in under 30 seconds. So global again a new belt, a new champion will be rewarded.
Now Miletich refuses to let go of the shorts. Hanging on to Burnett's shorts. He's able to survive in this position. Burnett can't do anything to him because he can't move his hips.
1 minute remains in regulation. Mikey Burnett, son, 9 months old, at home, probably not watching the fight, because Mikey said, I hope my son's not a fighter, but he may just be aggressive like daddy.
Well, he says that when his mom feeds him, he bites. So he's afraid that he's going to go. But of course, that is a rule denied in the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
This is true. This is true. His son Matthew. Proud papa, Mikey Burnett. And Pat Miletich with under 20 seconds now remaining in our regulation time period.
A foul has been assessed by Big John McCarthy for a strike to the groin by Mikey Burnett. And if it's a draw at the end of the fight, that is when the foul does come into play in the scoring, and that could cost Mikey Burnett unless he really gets ahead here. And that is the end of the 15-minute round. It's the end of the 15-minute round. They take a minute break here. Foul didn't really seem to hurt Pat Miletich. They're both in the corner right now, getting a chance to regroup. Let's take a look here. Burnett attacking the top of the head. They knee a lot from this position because there's no really other option because they're hanging on to each other's shorts. And one of those knees hit the groin. Big John McCarthy called the foul. Right there, looked at, was awful close, but I don't believe that is the one that Big Man McCarthy called. Right there was a second that came in there, low in the belly. Right there, that was it. That was it. He had 3 of them that were awful close right there, but John McCarthy saw that one for sure, called the foul.
Here we go, overtime. 2 3-minute overtimes for the lightweight championship. A knee strike again, so Mikey not afraid to strike to the midsection with the knees, although he missed, if you will, inadvertently in the regulation period of time.
Miletich really using the shorts to his advantage here.
In my recent memory, Jeff, this is the most that I have seen 2 fighters use each other's little bit of clothing to gain leverage.
Well, the only other one was Takahashi of Japan doing it against Walid Ismail, in which he hung on to Ismail's shorts nearly 3-4 minutes straight, never letting him go.
For dear life.
He did not want to go down to the ground with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. And I think you're going to see Mikey Burnett pick up the action because he knows he has a foul. Miletich directly went to his back there on purpose to pull Burnett into the guard. I don't think Pat Miletich's theory of out-conditioning Mikey Burnett is going to be a factor.
Again, Jerry Bolander with an injury, so unable to fight tonight in a highly anticipated matchup that we had hoped to see against Frank Shamrock. But Burnett, Bolander, Petey Williams, Guy Metzger, they all worked out in Dallas for about a month prior to their travels here to Sao Paulo. And during that time, I wouldn't be surprised if Big Ken Shamrock came into the den south, if you will, in Dallas and put the leather to some of the boys.
Well, he's still a presence, and we hear rumors that he may return to the octagon. It has not come true yet, but that potential does exist.
In our road to the heavyweight championship, a road already advanced on tonight by Tsuyoshi Kohsaka. In March, we will have a new heavyweight champion. Tonight, in a matter of potentially 3 minutes and just over 40 seconds, a judge, 3 of them, will decide who will be our first ever lightweight champion.
Burnett not able to get the range. There you see Miletich arching his back, and look how much Burnett has to strain just to keep up on his toes. He's unable to strike there. It's just too far away for him. This is where Miletich wants to be. He feels that he's got a great defense and that he can't get hurt here. But he really can't do a lot of scoring as well.
5 seconds left, and then we have another 3-minute overtime. They'll stop him and stand him up again.
They get a minute. They will have a minute here to go ahead and rest and get advice. Miletich bent over, certainly looking fatigued in his corner. Burnett talking with Guy Metzger. Looking at this action, this is where Burnett had an opportunity to try to score, but Miletich's guard is so tough. He's so long, and he balls up very nicely, preventing any kind of real strikes from getting in. Closes the guard. Right there you can see it. He's arching his back, and you can see how elongated Burnett becomes. He's got no balance to try to strike Pat Miletich. Good defense. But it's going to be interesting. This game is about offense. And oh, right hand caught the leg and he takes him down. That is a statement here. Burnett must feel, though, with a foul, and that foul comes into play when the judges feels it's a draw, that he really needs to make a statement and show some dominance so that he can win some kind of clear decision, whether it's unanimous or split, by the judges. This could very well stay here the rest of the fight unless Burnett lets him up, and he did. Burnett wants an opportunity to try to punch and score, and he knows he can't do it if Miletich has him in his guard. Miletich really wants to tie him up. Don't give him room to strike. Don't let Mikey Burnett have his athleticism come into play. Crowd him, bull him, frustrate him. Try to keep him from getting anything clean. Make him earn every little bit of an inch. It's not a lot of offense by Pat Miletich, certainly an effective defense.
Come on. Come on, cross facing back, cross facing back. Let's go. Come on, Mike, let's go. Come on, Mike, you gotta be busy, baby. Busy.
We saw in the heavyweight fight, Jeff, how a last burst may have given, the judges may have already decided Kohsaka was the winner, but the lasting memory of what you do in this overtime could determine our lightweight champion.
Well, there's no doubt. And always the last thing that the referees see is the key thing that may swing them one way or another. But certainly in a 21-minute fight, you don't want to believe the last 10 seconds determines it unless it's been a real clear-cut draw. This is close. Burnett has takedowns. Burnett is connected somewhat. Miletich has a good guard and great defense, but really has been unable to hit any kind of offense except short pulling. I'm not trying to be disrespectful of Pat Miletich, but really he has been unable to mount any kind of a nice knee by Mikey Burnett. A very nice knee to the head, and again brings one up.
So Mikey Burnett looking for aggressiveness and striking here in overtime. Now he's throwing some elbows to the back, and Miletich knows he needs to readjust. Guy Metzger, Petey Williams off to the side out of our camera's view right now. Guy Metzger cheering on Mikey Burnett from the most respected and the most successful submission fighting den, the Lion's Den. 20 seconds left.
And Miletich content to hang out of the shorts, keep himself close, not allow anything there. A nice knee attempt by Miletich, trying to bring it up to hit Burnett's head. It nearly got there. But he's leaning hard, trying to close space. And that's going to do it.
So the lightweight fight has come to a close. Mikey Burnett and Pat Miletich go the distance, the full 21 minutes. Mark Hansen and Mikey Burnett And Mikey with some strong elbow strikes in the overtime session, as it was with Petey Williams in our last matchup in Mobile. The Lions Den fighters come out aggressively. They know they need to, not only early, but in the overtime period. Miletich had hoped to run Mikey Burnett out of gas. He was not able to do so. Mikey Burnett from the Lions Den, who lists amongst his heroes Ken Shamrock, feels confident that the judge's decision will go his way. Pat Miletich, whose hero is Jack Lambert, the Hall of Fame linebacker from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who will be the lightweight champion? The official word is in, and for the announcement, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we again go to the judges' cards, where we have a split decision for the winner and new UFC lightweight champion of the world, the Croatian sensation, Pat Miletich.
So the judges render the decision to Pat Miletich, the Croatian sensation. Miletich victorious against Mikey Burnett in the decision given just a moment ago. These two demonstrated great pride and great conditioning. Mikey struck, but the guard and the experience of Miletich pays off in the end. Our first ever lightweight champion of the world is Pat Miletich. He is octagon side with Jeff Blatnick and the chairman, Bob Myrowitz.
I'm here both with SEG Chairman Bob Myrowitz and our winner and our new lightweight champion, Pat Miletich. Bob, I believe you have something you want to give our new champion.
Pat, congratulations as our first official lightweight champion. That was one of those matches that go down in the history of the UFC, a real war, great strategy, great to watch. Congratulations. Both you and Mikey deserve a lot of credit. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pat, let me ask you, what do you think the difference was in that fight? It was close quarters the whole way, not a lot of space to get some big strikes in.
The main thing I wanted to do was, hit him with some leg kicks, close the gap, grapple with him, and try and get him in a submission. The guy's got great balance, very powerful. I mean, unbelievable how strong he is. Very few guys I've ever rolled around with that are that strong. You know, that fight was too close for one of us to deserve the belt, I think. He's a champ. That's all there is to it. He's a great athlete.
Well, you're being very humble and very gracious, and certainly that respect goes a long way towards the sport of mixed martial arts. Pat, you're now the champion. Do you feel that victory and your plan on trying to outcondition him was the difference?
You know, I think that we both paced ourselves a little bit. I think his power wears you out more than most people do. That's one thing that I was concerned about. I thought I had better endurance than he did, but I knew his strength was going to tax me a little bit, and it did. Yeah.
Well, you certainly did a great job. Who's out there that you want to face in the lightweight division?
Rumina Sato from Japan. I would really like to fight him, and I wouldn't mind fighting in the middleweight division. Of course, I couldn't fight John Lober because he's a good friend of mine, an old training partner, but if Shamrock happens to beat him, which I hope John wins because we're very good friends, but Frank's a good guy too, but if Frank wins, maybe they'll give me a chance to eat some cinnamon rolls and go up to middleweight and fight him.
Well, congratulations from Iowa, our new lightweight champion, Pat Miletich. Back to you, Mike.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and very gracious, as you said. And maybe in the Birmingham Auditorium, we will once again see Pat Miletich. We know one thing, we will see the UFC debut of Boss Rutan. He is on our road to the heavyweight championship. It continues. Kohsaka advanced, and in a moment, we'll see who will advance between Tank Abbott and Pedro Rizzo. It comes your way from Birmingham. Mark it down on the calendar now. 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, January 15th. And yes, coming up, our second heavyweight matchup on the road to the heavyweight title. David Tank Abbott, the bad boy of the UFC, against another Brazilian here tonight in Pedro Rizzo. Tank Abbott and Pedro Rizzo. This is a fight that they have been talking about here in Sao Paulo because of Tank's reputation, taking on someone from this proud country. He is from Rio de Janeiro. His hero is Marco Ruas. We were told by Pedro that he is absolutely excited about tonight's opportunity to fight, and he calls this the most important fight of his life.
Yeah, that's why I think this fight will be the most important fight in my life. That's why I trained very hard for this. You know? So, but I think Tank has more. How can I say? He's a very good experienced fighter. So, if Tank beat me, he beat me one more guy. If I beat him, everybody gonna knows me. I think all the responsibilities to him.
He calls it Ruas Vale Tudo in respect to his hero Marco Ruas. He started at age 14 did Pedro Rizzo, and Marco not in his corner because he just lost a tough fight in Japan. And in Japan, this man, David Tank Abbott, defeated Yoji Anjo. Last time at UFC 17, he pummeled Hugo Duarte. And listen to the reaction here in Brazil for the entrance of David Tank Abbott. Any place, any time. David Tank Abbott, 500-pound bench press, 475 pounds on the incline, sets of 4, 115-pound dumbbell curls, 268 pounds, 33 years old. In Brazil to fight tonight in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Inside the octagon for the official introduction as we continue our road to the heavyweight title, Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our next heavyweight super fight. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a Vale Tudo fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 6-0 and a kickboxing record of 31-1. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 228 pounds. He's fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and making his octagon debut. Please welcome Pedro Rizzo. And his opponent, standing to my right. This warrior is a well-known veteran of the octagon. He is here tonight competing in his 9th UFC, standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 268 pounds. You all know him as the pit fighter from Huntington Beach, California. Please welcome the one, the only, David Tank Abbott.
A mixture of cheers and boos brings a smirk to Tank Abbott's face. He has no love or respect for the martial arts or its practitioners. Here is your tale of the tape. Tank 9 years older and 40 pounds heavier than Pedro Rizzo. Out of Rio de Janeiro, 24 years old. Marco Ruas' top student, the 4-time Brazilian Muay Thai champion, against this man, the most experienced man in the octagon, the man he calls himself the only real fighter in the UFC. There's our referee, John McCarthy. He's ready to get it underway.
Here we go, gentlemen. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
Here we go! Heavyweight anticipation tonight. Tank with a bull rush. This is how he came out against Duarte. Oh, Tank goes down, and he's delivered a shot again. Rizzo connected twice.
He caught Tank flush both times.
Rizzo stunned Tank.
Tank went down. He was definitely stunned, but that might have woke him up. Now the Bear's mad. How will Rizzo handle that?
Now Rizzo was already cut under his left eye. So if you see blood under there, don't be surprised. There is some blood from the ear of Tank Abbott. Tank came out with a big burst of gas. He is heavier than he was in UFC 17 by about 18 pounds.
He also was chasing Rizzo uncontrollably, allowing Rizzo to pick a spot to go ahead and hit him back. Tank Abbott was definitely stunned on 2 good shots. The first one put him down to his knees.
We are just a minute in, and man, are there some strikes being thrown. Oh, Tank answers the kick.
Traded a kick for a good punch there.
I find it highly unlikely that this fight is going to go the distance.
Oh, I don't think so. And Tank's breathing real heavy here right now, too. A cut under Rizzo's left eye.
That was the one open from before, from the stitches he came in with, as we mentioned.
And Rizzo's got tremendous movement skill. He's able to avoid those quick bull rushes by Tank Abbott. Tank should stand still, make Rizzo come to him. Tank also has a problem. He's never been able to stop leg kicks. If Rizzo keeps leg kicking like that, he could take the legs right out from Tank Abbott.
That is how he lost to Maurice Smith. From the bar stool to the octagon because of leg kicks.
Rizzo has got Tank tired.
Tank's got his hands on his waist. Listen to the cheers of Rizzo. Rizzo again with the kick, and it buckles the left knee of Tank Abbott. Tank tries a big shot, and he drives him to the mat.
And he's going to find himself underneath. He might get choked there. Oh, he's got his head up now. He might get a double leg takedown.
Tank's a street fighter. He's a pit fighter, but he is also a very experienced wrestler.
Yes, he is. He's had some experience in wrestling. You saw it there. Nice double leg. Kept his head up back straight. Able to lift Rizzo. Didn't get him off the ground, but was able to twist, knock him down. He's got the takedown. Look for him to take a brief rest here. Try to get some composure. Then watch him go for a sprint. He'll start to strike. But he is tired already. He got dazed, and that certainly is going to add to the fatigue because he's frustrated.
Boss Rutan in the corner of Pedro Rizzo with Marco Huas still traveling back from Japan, where he suffered a heartbreaking defeat. Rizzo's nickname in Holland is The Rock. And he took a shot to the chin already early.
Tank needs to be careful. He could get stood up unless he's active here.
Well, Rizzo told us yesterday that he didn't think he could trade power with Tank, but yet he tried to throw the strikes concurringly early in the matchup. Rizzo, a good striker, good skills on his feet.
Oh, he certainly picked at Tank. Tank bull rushed him, and he was able to land those nice shots that stunned Tank Abbott and certainly brought this crowd into this fight. Tank has never had a real good pass the guard game. He was able to do it to some people, but not against an experienced Brazilian.
One of the early criticisms of David Tank Abbott is you can't go blind with pure aggressiveness because of the danger of burning yourself out. Just a rabbit punch to the jaw. Tank has been hit a lot worse than that hundreds of times in his life.
The key here is Tank wants to regroup, but it seems every time he starts to raise up, Rizzo catches him with a shot. Tank drops his head, and he starts out in the same position the whole thing started from. So all he accomplished there was getting hit. Nowhere did he gain any kind of positional advantage.
What a great first 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Already one of the Brazilians has won this evening. Ebenezer Fontes Braga defeating Jeremy Horn in a middleweight fight. This another American against Brazilian matchup here on a very popular card in Sao Paulo, as the Brazilians try to go 2 for 2 in their fights against North American opponents tonight. Our main event, Vitor Belfort and Vanderlei Silva, 2 Brazilians battling still on our card this evening. And still later, Frank Shamrock and John Lober. for the middleweight belt.
And Rizzo wound up to deliver an elbow to the back of Tank Abbott's head, something that's legal under Brazilian rules. But here he was able to gain composure. This shows that this is a thinking game. He stopped himself from bringing the strike down because he knows it's a foul.
Tank brought the head up again. He got jabbed.
He just can't seem to get on track at all. You notice how Rizzo's legs are hooked into the hip area of Tank, pushing him back, keeping Tank from getting any closer to him so his hands can hit him. Great fundamental tactic here by Pedro Rizzo.
Now remember the last time Tank was in the octagon, he beat one of Pedro Rizzo's other heroes, Hugo Duarte, who Tank jokingly said, oh, is that the guy in the coffee can? Tank will always say what's on his mind. That is what many love the most about him, is that he is pure. But Rizzo was concerned because there's such great pressure for him to win in his homeland here this evening.
I don't know anyone that would not have a pucker factor staring into the eyes of Tank Abbott going into a fight. There's just no way that I would ever want to do it. And certainly someone who has never faced Tank Abbott and seen the kind of power that Tank Abbott has in his punches, you would have to be concerned about that. But the other side of Tank Abbott is it is not sophisticated. It is not strategic. It is pretty apparent what he is going to do.
They're back to their feet. Out of the guard. Who's this good for, Jeff?
I believe they're going to be taking a peek at the cut. I don't know if there was a foul or not. No, it looks like he's looking at the cut.
No water.
No water because of the danger of it going off the shoulder and into the octagon.
Are you ready?
Right, that was just basically he stood him up. I'm not sure whether he checked the eye or whether Tank really wasn't being busy enough in the guard. But Tank is again moving forward, and when he steps forward, he's presenting that leg to kick like that.
Tank's shoulders are coming up and down, trying to break down the big man. Tank trying to answer. Remember Maurice Smith's kicks, feeling like an 85-mile-an-hour baseball bat.
And that's when Tank finally did right. He's standing still. He's not presenting himself coming at him. It's harder to kick him. But it seems that Tank is very fatigued now.
And believe me, Jeff, these guys know how to kick in the same spot every single time. Tank goes down again. Rizzo striking him. Tank with an uppercut, it missed. Tank is gassed. 4 minutes left in the regulation time period. Rizzo again, and he went high, and Tank goes down. It's over. Tank Abbott is down. Pedro Rizzo the winner. Here it is, those big kicks a la Maurice Smith, trying to bring down the big man Tank Abbott. And at 8:07, Marco Huas's top student, fighting in the most important fight of his life tonight, knocks out the legendary brawler, David Tank Abbott. Tank is up. Oh my goodness, what a great heavyweight fight. Kohsaka and now Pedro Rizzo advance on the road to the heavyweight championship.
Let's have a big one.
Another look at it. Tank came out early. Rizzo caught him with a couple of shots when Tank tried to go at the early flurry. Was Tank in as good a condition tonight as he was a couple of months ago? That, I believe, is debatable. Tank was fatigued, he caught the right, and that was it at 8:07. Here tonight, you've seen it both ways tonight. Victor, Vitor. Victor is the North American spelling. He is now Vitor Belfort. He is ready to take on Vanderlei Silva. Vanderlei Silva from Calatiba, Parada, Brazil. the opposite direction of Rio de Janeiro, about 200 miles down the road, where Vitor Belfort is born and now lives. This young man, a Muay Thai Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, replaces the injured Jerry Bolander in our main event. No UFC competitions on his record, but 3-0 reportedly in mixed martial arts competition. Working closely with his manager Sergio Pontarelli. He has had lots of fighters, and he is looking forward to tonight's competition.
And one of the fights, certainly the fight that catapulted him into the Ultimate Fighting Championship, was the defeat of Mike Van Arsdale down here in Brazil. He kneed Van Arsdale in the stomach and then followed it up with some good strikes, won by a technical knockout. And I'm sure that was the impetus that got John Peretti and SEG to go ahead and grab this fight.
Our first fighter's equipment being checked. Vanderlei Silva uses his elbows, his knees, has a variety of strikes. That comes from the Muay Thai background. He feels he's a better striker, multi-dimensionally, than the ever so popular Vitor Belfort. We can call this one tonight the Battle of Brazil. And Vitor in a very plain white t-shirt with just his hometown of Rio de Janeiro on the front. And a lot smaller than he was the last time we saw him in the octagon.
Well, he certainly turned red when we saw him in Ultimate Japan, a sure sign of fatigue. Perhaps he was carrying too much size. Perhaps power went to his head and he thought the added size made him that much more effective. But in boxing, it isn't size, it's hand speed. And now we see Vitor Belfort, who's known for his hands, down, very, very slim, looking in marvelous shape here. And if he took his time cutting the weight and training, he is going to be ready and shape won't be a problem for him.
This is our main event. For the first time, Vitor Belfort, a middleweight. The official introductions, the voice of the octagon, Bruce Buffer.
Our next fight is a middleweight super fight between two very game Brazilian warriors. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert making his UFC debut. He stands 6 feet, 1 inch tall, and weighs in at 199 pounds. He has a mixed martial arts record of 6-1, hailing from Curitiba, Paraná, Brazil. Please welcome Vanderlei Silva. And his opponent, standing to my right, he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter with a UFC record of 4-1. He is a veteran of UFC 12, 13, 15, and Ultimate Japan. He stands 6 feet, 199 pounds, and he hails from Rio de Janeiro. Please welcome the Phenom, Vitor Belfort.
A very stoic, expressionless Vitor Belfort. None of the rah-rah that we have seen in the past. He appears to be extremely focused. 21 years old now, Vitor, the Phenom, breaking into the scene at age 19 against Vanderlei Silva. John McCarthy ready to get us started for the main event.
Here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
Here we go!
Vitor, known for his punching, wants to stay in punching range. And from what we saw of Vanderlei Silva when he defeated Mike Van Arsdale, he likes to be in close, likes to use elbows and knees.
Vitor, the most lethal hands when you speak quickness in UFC history.
The other thing I noticed in the Vanderlei Mike Van Arsdale fight was that Vanderlei Silva seemed to walk through Van Arsdale's punches, like to move forward. I don't know if he wants to do that with Vitor Belfort.
Vitor is wearing shoes, so he will not be able to strike with the feet. Oh, he does with the hands, though. Vitor Belfort is the winner! 44 seconds! The knockout by Vitor Belfort! That's the old Vitor. The questions have been answered. Wow, we said before, the quickest, the fastest hands in UFC history. A left, a right, a left, a right. And the young man who has aspirations of boxing in the lightweight division, maybe even, for this country of Brazil. 44 seconds scores the knockout as they chant the name Vitor here in Sao Paulo. And there it is, a hug with Carlson Gracie, the on-again, off-again relationship with the 65-year-old mentor of Vitor Belfort. You know, tonight, Pat Miletich and Vitor Belfort say they want Frank Shamrock. Nobody wants Frank Shamrock more than the guy right there that we see pictured to his right, John the Machine Lober, who studies under Bruce Lee's art of Jeet Kune Do. It stresses the importance of being competent in all ranges of fighting. Now, Lober said to us yesterday, there is no bad blood. He just wants the fight so that he has an opportunity to have a sweeter victory than he had in Hawaii in '97, because he wants to beat him with a big belt on the line, and what he calls the greatest belt in mixed martial arts. Frank Shamrock, 25 years old. John Lober, 5 years older, making his UFC debut tonight. Born in Inglewood, California, fighting out of Huntington Beach. He tells us how he will win this evening.
My strength against Frank Shamrock is my striking, and so I intend to stand up and strike him until he falls to the mat again, and then I'm going to let him get back up, and then I'm going to knock him to the mat again, and then I'm going to let him get back up, and then I'm going to knock him to the mat again. I'm definitely in Frank's head right now, and he knows that I'm superior mentally and physically than he is, I think. I think he's worked real hard to catch up, and I think that night I'm still going to be in the back of his head, and if I take it to him first, it's going to remind him really quick of what happened last time, and then it's going to be a long night for him.
John Lober, the only man to defeat Frank at the Super Brawl in Hawaii. Now, that was Frank's mixed martial arts debut. Frank feels he was still too much in a pancrase mode then, and people don't realize how different pancrase is from the UFC. The UFC is war. Frank told us yesterday, I am 10 times better now than I was then. We know one thing for sure. Coming out right now of the tunnel momentarily is the only man ever to have the opportunity to win a 4th belt. Our 3-time middleweight champion, one of the belts being held by his partner in the alliance, Maurice Smith. His manager, his fiancée, Angelina Brown, they will wed on June 15th. We are anxiously awaiting the re-entry into the octagon of that young man, 25-year-old Frank Shamrock. Frank Shamrock did not say there wasn't any bad blood. There is bad blood when you talk about Lober.
When I fought Lober the first time, I'm definitely meaner, more aggressive, and more technical. I've kind of come into my body and realized what it can do. Watch out.
This is for the middleweight championship. 3-0 in the UFC. Defending his title was Ken Shamrock. You saw the fight on a night of champions. We saw it live in Mobile, Alabama on May 15th. But that night he was taking 16.5 minutes. His other 2 victories were in under 30 seconds each. John the Machine Lober, 30 years old. Both have similar weight. This, we expect, will be an all-out war. As we get set for the middleweight championship of the world, Here in Sao Paulo, we get the official introductions from the veteran voice of the Octagon, his 8th show, Bruce Buffer.
Señores y señoras, you are fantastic fans. Senhoras e senhores, muito obrigado. Agradecemos pela noite maravilhosa. Valeu, galera. Próximo combate, disputa de título mundial dos pesos médios. Com vocês, Bruce Buffer. And now, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the main event of the evening. This is the battle for the UFC Middleweight Championship of the World. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is an expert in the art of Jeet Kune Do with a mixed martial arts record of 3-1-1. He stands 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing in at 199 pounds. He hails from Huntington Beach, California, and tonight is making his UFC debut. Please welcome John the Machine Lober. And his opponent, he is a submission fighter with a UFC record of 3-0. Fighting out of San Jose, California, he stands 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighs in at 195 pounds. He is the UFC Middleweight Champion of the World. Please welcome Frank Shamrock.
They have fought common opponents. John Lober lost to Kevin Jackson in Extreme Fighting. He drew against Igor Zinoviev. Shamrock defeated both of those gentlemen in under 30 seconds. A question remains, has Frank improved that much since January of 1997, the Super Brawl in Hawaii? We are set for the Middleweight Championship of the World in the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Move to that corner right there. Get in your spot. Get in your spot. It's for the UFC Middleweight Championship. Are you ready?
Big John checking the corner
you
of
ready?
Lober.
Let's get it
And
on.
we are underway. 15 minutes with 2 3-minute overtimes if needed. The belt on the line.
To your left, to your left. There you go, cut it off. Don't walk into it, let him come. Make him fight, Frankie. Cut it off, cut it off, cut it off. Cut it off. Frank, aggressively.
Seems as though Lober's trying to draw Shamrock to him.
Frank cut, he kicked, he spun, and Lober looks. Lober, a very intense young man. Very intense in our meetings. Trying to pull Frank down.
Single leg.
Frank showing great strength and balance.
Good balance right here. Lober's kind of indecisive whether he should trip here with this single leg and knock Frank down. Frank has that underhook, which could cause some rolling once they hit the ground. Lober may not like that. That's why he's spacing out right here, hanging on. Guillotine choke now.
Pat Miletich, away from the main fight, has a video camera, videoing this for himself. He wants Shamrock later. Shamrock wants the choke. He's got Lober up and now down.
Side mount. And I guarantee you that choke was sunk good. You saw Lober literally lift himself up, just prying himself off of Shamrock.
Well, John Lober has an incredible tolerance for pain. In Pancras, he had his leg broken in a leg lock and never reacted. His opponent had to tell the referee that his leg was broken.
I was there, Mike. He never whimpered. He never did a thing. In fact, when we saw him laying in the ring, it looked like he didn't even realize he was injured.
It's going to take a lot to make that man tap. Unfazed in the first matchup in Hawaii when Frank knocked his 2 front teeth out.
Basically, Lober has a quasi-cradle on Shamrock, leg in the head, keeping Shamrock from really being able to do anything from the side mount. After the scramble ensues, Lober's trying to get up here. Again, Shamrock trying to work that guillotine choke. Lober pushes him into the fence. Look for him to try to rip the legs out now of Shamrock and knock him down.
Frank tries to deliver to the backside. 2 minutes, 20 seconds into our middleweight championship. And back down to the ground it goes.
Half guard by Shamrock, still maintaining head control of Lober.
Now the machine Lober said he knows Frank is crafty on the ground. He did admit that. Wasn't quick to compliment his opponent, but he did assess that of Frank's talents yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much bad blood there is. They don't come right out and say it, but it seems as they start to talk about one another, ill feelings start to come out, or they're not real complimentary. And you're right, it's tough to get something positive said about the other person out of these. He wants to finish this on the ground, does Lober. He feels cardio is to his advantage, and he feels he strikes hard.
Well, they come from different backgrounds to this climax of their fighting careers tonight. I mean, Frank was always Ken's little brother. Didn't start training till '94, and he has been spectacular in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The most decorated champion, perhaps especially after tonight, with a 4th title possibility. And John Lober used to tape himself fighting guys on his VCR in his own garage and sent them towards John Peretti, advanced through Extreme Fighting. He said, I marketed myself, I am here tonight. Different paths to a similar result, a similar desire to claim the belt at the end of this evening's contest.
Lober trying to crank the neck and shoulder of Shamrock. Shamrock very comfortable in there. Going ahead and throwing some strikes to Lober's ribs and midsection. Lober now blocking. Some effective striking by Shamrock here. Nice elbow, quick short forearm to Shamrock's face. And again, Shamrock hits him back. Shot to the head. Not a lot of power on that shot because you're laying on your back, but it scores.
Come on.
Now we saw Frank go 16.5 minutes with Jeremy Horn. We know Frank's conditioning is impeccable.
Choke attempt by Lober. Shamrock reverses him, and this is something Shamrock likes to do, is put his head in the belly so that he gets good leverage and is able to work his way out of the guard. Lober blocking with his knee.
We haven't seen Frank with a lot of kicks, but he tried one a moment ago, Jeff. And he knows the rules well. He waited for Lober to get back on his feet, then delivered the strike with the feet.
Well, as opposed to Williams, who clearly let Kohsaka get up on his own with absolutely no threat, Shamrock threatened as soon as Lober came up and was able to try to get that kick to the head.
Shamrock again has Lober in his guard.
It's a long fight. I'm sure Shamrock doesn't mind being here. He's pretty tough in the guard position. And Lober wants nothing to do with Frank grabbing his head anymore. That early choke probably is firmly in his memory.
Now Lober says he just wishes when they met in Hawaii that Frank would have said, John Lober beat me tonight. Instead, at least Lober states that he said that Frank said that he and I were friends and that he couldn't bring himself to hurt me, and that's why he got his butt kicked for 30 minutes. He said he didn't know Frank Shamrock. I'd only seen him on video. Lober says, I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of the sport. I beat Frank and he gets all the press. Lober wants vengeance tonight. Let's see if we can hear Maurice Smith as Lober sits in front of him and John McCarthy brings them back to their feet. 6'10".
Kick to the leg. Lober's kick didn't score. It was blocked by Shamrock.
Frank has definitely improved his striking with the help of Maurice Smith.
That one hurt. That one hurt. You saw his leg buckle.
And the big mark on the back of the machine's leg. And Frank again going for strikes with the legs. He's got the new toys from Maurice. He likes to use them.
I don't know. It looks like Lober's breathing pretty hard there. Shamrock looking good here, looking fresh.
Aggressive.
Right hand. Right hand by Shamrock. Shamrock wants him up.
Two good submission guys going toe-to-toe.
Another good leg kick.
Frank has him in the corner, pushed up against the fence.
Lober
Frank
looks
trying
tired.
to strike.
Lober looks
Oh,
tired.
delivers a knee to the head of John Lober. And now a
right
big
hand.
shot, and another. Shamrock clearly in control here. Delivers another strike. And now it goes to the ground, and Lober's cut.
Somebody's cut. I can't see the cut on Lober.
It's Lober's forehead, partner.
A good sequence by Frank Shamrock, mixing kicking and punching, using the kick as the jab and following it up with the right hand. And it is definitely Lober's right eye.
Frank has put him down, and now John McCarthy breaks them up, and it is over. Frank Shamrock retains his middleweight belt for the 4th time. Frank Shamrock is our middleweight champion of the world. A TKO. McCarthy stops the fight at 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Great striking displayed by the champion, Frank Shamrock. He and Lober sharing a moment of great class as we go back to a replay look of the big strike, boom, there, that opened the eye of John the Machine Lober. John McCarthy, as always, with the fighter's safety in mind, can stop the fight when he renders one of the fighters unable to intelligently defend himself. I don't know if I could see a tap as Frank worked the ribs. I'm looking at the hands as you are on the replay, as Frank just kept working over John Lober.
Still, UFC middleweight champion of the world, Frank Shamrock.
And Shamrock wins at 7:40 of our middleweight championship bout. There's the tap. It was a tap. It was a tap. John Lober tapped at 7:40. Our champion is with Jeff Blatnick inside the octagon.
Again, I'm with Bob Meyerowitz of SEG and our middleweight champion retaining his title, Frank Shamrock. Bob.
Frank, congratulations again. You're like the greatest champion we've had. I don't know what you're going to do with all these. You're going to have to hire people just to carry them in. Congratulations on another great fight.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks a lot. You give me a second here to talk. I want to give a shout out to my brother Ken for supporting me, and I wish he was here right now. To all my people, this was not just me out here. It was Javier Mendez, Vic Chiropractic from my Vic, Maurice Smith, all my friends that got me here. That's what's really important. And you better keep making these, Bob. You better keep making them.
That's right, baby.
Frank, what was your true game plan when you walked in here against Lober?
I didn't tell you that in the pre-fight because I wanted to mess with you, Jeff. My plan was to beat the crap out of him. I really didn't like what he was saying and how he was carrying himself, so I made him quit. I made him tell me to stop. I made him say, I quit, I give up, please don't hit me anymore. I made him cry uncle.
You put a tremendous combination of kicks followed by punches. Almost you used the kick as a jab to set up that right hand.
Well, that was compliments of Maurice Smith and Javier Mendez. Couldn't have done it without him. It was effective. I think you saw it on his face.
Earlier this evening, in a battle between Brazilians, Vitor Belfort, as a middleweight now, probably the fastest hands in the UFC. Your thoughts, and what do you think of him as an opponent?
Bring him on. Bring them all on. Nobody's going to beat me. Nobody.
Well, Frank, you had a tough performance against Jeremy Horn. It was a last-minute replacement. You didn't have time really to study him in any way. Perhaps you were caught off guard. But do you think that this performance tonight vindicates that you are the middleweight champion of the UFC?
I'm the man. But I tell you what, tonight wasn't my best. I can do better, a lot.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what, we've seen nothing but improvement since you entered the octagon. 2 quick victories. How much better can you get?
A whole lot better. It just keeps going. It gets worse and worse. Bring them on.
Well, Frank, congratulations. Congratulations to Angelina, the manager. We'll look forward to you again in the next show. Back to you, Mike.
Well, I'll tell you what, he is the real deal. Frank Shamrock, victorious again tonight. When he will fight next, that is still yet to be determined, but we do know January 15th, we will be with you from the Birmingham Auditorium, Bas Rutten's UFC debut. The road to the heavyweight championship continues. There's a possibility that Mark the Hammer Coleman could re-enter the octagon. There's a possibility that Maurice Smith could re-enter the octagon. We would also be honored to have Ken Shamrock's presence back inside the octagon. Make sure to contact your local cable operator and let them know that you want to be part of our evening in Birmingham in January. The UFC will come back to North America after a wonderful show here tonight in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Brazilians go 2-0. The North American matches I'm speaking of there. The Lions Den loses 2 decisions in all, Jeff. A wonderful night of great fighting again here in Sao Paulo under conditions less than perfect from a television point of view because we're 6,000 miles away. But the one thing that is consistent with this thing that is the only UFC, we have the greatest mixed martial artists on this planet.
Well, certainly it appears as though the best athletes are here. Certainly Frank Shamrock with that performance vaults himself into perhaps one of the greatest fighters ever to enter the octagon. This is 4 in a row for him. This is something that Royce Gracie hadn't done. But Royce did it in tournaments. So that's a little bit of a difference, but certainly Frank now has established himself, and I'd like to think that we do have the greatest fighters on earth.
The Alliance goes 2-0, and it was a night that we hope you all enjoyed this evening. It is the Ultimate Fighting Championship. This has been Sao Paulo, Brazil. Once again, we've gone global, and we have had great success. We thank all of our crew at SEG that has worked so hard. And for Jeff Blatnick, my partner, I'm Mike Goldberg, saying so long until we see you next time in Birmingham, Alabama. This has been the Ultimate Fighting Championship.